Welcome to BCube Sunday morning. How y'all doing out there?
Morning.
Morning.
Good.
Great, Bob.
Yep.
This is a crowd, but it's a great crowd. We have people you may recognize. Now, I'm going to go right to left or top to bottom, as I normally go. Um, so, in my world, Emily is in the Paul N Square. If any of you old enough to remember Hollywood Squares or Paul Lynn. Now, what we have gathered you here today is we are doing a little bit of promotion for an anthology that's been 15 years in the making. The very first story I ever sold was a story called Scott's Planet. The premise was international the world was what do you call that space stuff, interstellar exploration, migration. And I was in it with this writer. I think I gave his career a boost by being in an anthology with him called Harry Turtledove. And it was like, wow. And he even sent me a review of my story.
He owes it all to you, Bob.
Yeah, he does. I mean, I've never tried to cash in on the debt he clearly owes me. But he sent me a review. I crashed my bike yesterday and had a wrap. I
didn't know there would be feats of strength.
Huh?
I didn't know there would be feats of strength.
Happy.
Well, you got to be tough to survive on Scott's Planet, Andy.
Hey, yeah, Scott's Planet, great planet. But he sent me as a review. 2 words. Nice story. I still got the email. The electrons are getting kind of, shaded, losing a little bit of their charge, but still, it's good. But so I've been wanting to do an anthology built around Scott's Planet for a long time. So Scott's Planet is a world that some of you haven't even read the intro to the book because we don't have Jared Kavanaugh here. But Scott's Planet, for you guys know this, but the audience doesn't, is a world where suddenly it's very easy to do interstellar travel. Earth is a shithole. The moon is
That's a future statement?
Huh?
That's a future statement you're making?
Well, no, that was the way Trump viewed it. I don't know. But the moon has built a Venn dome over a large one of the craters, and that's where the cool people live, the rich people. They live in the low gravity. They live a lot longer. And so they've been feeding the oppressed, poor, derelicts, whatever, of Earth to the stars. And then one day they start really looking at the bottom line and say, you know what? Some of these colonies are costing us money. And what does corporate do when they find out that somebody they've invested in is costing them money? Any guesses?
Redundancy.
Yeah, they abandon them. Oh, yeah, we have a person in Bangladesh that's doing the same thing as you, and it's either you or him, and we pay him $5,000 a year, and we pay you $25,000 a year. So, sorry, Charlie. So, and that's not to pick on Bangladesh. I have no idea what the living wage is in Bangladesh. So, but anyway, that's what they've done. They've started abandoning colonies, and Scott's Planet is one of the colonies they've abandoned. And as we said there, this is the people that have gone to the stars, the first wave, and they're not people that are really ready to go home. And the option for leaving Scott's Planet and getting to go back home is not to go back to Earth, but they're consolidating into a mining colony. Stay on Scott's Planet or go to a mining colony. And these are the people that stayed. So I'll start with Andrew. He's right up there, our favorite Beowulf poet.
Right.
Actually, no, you see, he's a direct descendant of John Smith, the fellow that originally wrote Beowulf.
Actually, I'm a descendant of John Alden.
Well, he writes epic poetry, long pages and pages of chapters and chapters. So, Andrew, tell us about your story in Scott's Planet.
It's not pages and pages this time. It's a couple. And it's the immigrant story, right? Where you have the young guy and his girlfriend, and he wants to stay on Scott's Planet, and he needs to leave. And it's the agreement they make.
Oh, Dale, that's you talking. I thought it was Andrew. Okay, go ahead, Dale.
It was Andrew. I wasn't talking.
That was
I don't know. I can't. Your pictures are all so small for me. I'm going to go to full screen so I can keep track of you malcontents.
Bob. That was me talking.
There we go. Okay. So anyway, Dale, were you telling us about your story in Scott Planet?
Not yet. That was Andrew.
That was Andrew?
That was Andrew.
Okay, Andrew. I don't know what you're playing with here, but I thought you wrote me an epic poem.
Not for this one. You turned down the long one. You bought the short one.
Oh, I was thinking about a different one. Andrew Roberts. Yeah, Gravity.
Yeah, the short one.
Okay.
Yeah, if I wrote a poem, you probably wouldn't have wanted it. I'm not that good at it.
I don't know. I have a Cliff Winnig poem in here somewhere.
Don't feel bad, Bob. I was trying to nominate a story this morning for the Stoker Awards that I realized I rejected.
That's bad. That's okay. Just the idea that I forgot. Okay, Andrew, go back and tell us about your story again.
Boy and girl on Scott's Planet. Boy wants to leave. Girl wants to stay. That's it. That's the poem.
It's a classic.
That's
is
totally the immigrant experience, though, right? Like,
But it's okay. I've got you right next to. I'll shift to Cliff. Right next to Cliff, who's written the shortest piece in the book.
Hey,
I wrote a poem. It's like less than a page long.
Even at 12-point old style Bookman, which is what I use.
You didn't use Comic Sans, Bob, because that really fits the vibe of Scott's Planet. There's one place is loud. Somewhere is loud.
Okay, who's got the meat grinder going in the background?
or somebody's snoring.
I don't know.
Am I the only person that hears it?
No, we all hear it.
We all hear it. I just don't know where it's coming from. There's so many. I think it's the industrial machinery for the mining equipment where the colonists have been moved to. That's what.
Sound effects.
So anyway, I wrote a poem about the people on Scott's Planet as the last of the spaceships lifts off to go take those who are going to be miners in the Weyland-Yutani or whatever mining company. They're watching the spaceship take off, and it kind of dawns on them in an emotional level that they're stranded, right? There's no interstellar travel from Scott's Planet anytime in the foreseeable future. So that's what it's that moment when it hits you.
That is pretty cool. I liked it. It fit well with the story I had it next to originally that turned out to die on the vine. Because there's an interesting thing about this book. Stories.
Do we all try to mute and figure out which it's coming from?
No, I have
probably.
no idea. Somebody knows.
Somebody knows.
But it's okay. Now, Lance, we talked about your story last week a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Remind us about your love of Byzantine history here.
Yeah, I'm getting into it a little bit, but
Actually, you are into Byzantine history?
I'm dabbling. I'm not a I'm not.
Well,
I was
did you
born
know
in
that-
Southern Illinois. I got a couple of oceans across, but
Well, we were talking about Harry Turtledove. His doctorate is in Byzantine history.
yeah, I'm a long way from that. I have some Eastern Orthodox friends, but yeah, this is the assumption is there are only a couple of Eastern Orthodox, and one, one's a priest. You can be married priests in the Eastern Orthodox tradition. So the most Reverend Metropolitan Ivan of Scott's Planet is invited by a guy named Bubba to go hogging. He doesn't know what that is, and he realizes very quickly it means shoving your fist into a giant sunken tree log to catch catfish that bite onto your fist. So it's kind of like the setup of a joke, but it doesn't necessarily end up a joke.
Two Episcopalians and a Byzantine walk into a bar. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, that's the easiest way to make sure Baptists don't drink your beer when you go fishing is to bring two of them.
That works for Mormons, Baptists, and that's that. I love that joke. It's one of the oldest and bestest fishing jokes out there.
That's true. It doesn't work for the Eastern Orthodox though. They drink a lot.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a fan of Byzantine history, so that's just a side note. So anyway, how does this Eastern Orthodoxy take to catfishing?
I mean, he likes it all right. I don't know that it ends so great, but yeah, I don't know how to, other than spoiling it. He thinks they're going to go line fishing. They do not go line fishing, and then they start kind of working their way up. I mean, what hit this for me is when Bob sent the list of things for the biome and the planet. I just started seeing 68-degree water, planet made entirely of mud, covered in giant bugs. This is optimum apex predator environment for catfish. So, and they bring catfish, and I was like, someone made a grave miscalculation on how this is going to scale. Not like Bob, but just there's a consequence to this. So yeah, I just kind of let them run wild with the Southern Illinois, Louisiana, Riverland over an entire planet.
Well, it is because one of the things here on Scott's Planet is if you know anything about paleontology or whatever they call that study of the old worlds.
Yeah,
Planet of the Everglades, no Cliff.
That's the Scott's Planet Southern Truths crossover story.
That's a garbage disposal.
It's gotta be.
Is it me?
Well, anyway, what you do is you catch these giant catfish and you shove them down a garbage disposal during the podcast. Okay, so that is cool. Now, the joy of. I'm sorry. Okay. We're having a rotating denial of it's not me, but you know what? I don't care. It's background. It's helping run the story. But
it's that industrial space technology.
Industrial space technology. There you are. you're flying through space. You turn to Skippy and say how we're doing, and all of a sudden, everybody knows who Skippy is, right? Well, that'll be another story another day. Okay, so I see that right now we've managed to get Dale is distracted. So let's ask Dale to tell us about his story.
Perfect timing. You're as good as you're as good as the
It's
wait staff in the restaurant. Uh, so yeah, my story. I haven't done too much in the way of anthologies. I think maybe one or two stories before this I've been in some anthologies, but I have a tendency to like to take things in a different direction if I can find a different direction. So whereas most of the stories here are dealing with the people living on the, as I recall, it's been a while, the one big continent that is inhabited on Scott's planet. There are also islands, and once upon a time they may have been inhabited, but people kind of left the islands and went back to the mainland. I set mine on one of the islands because I had a feeling nobody else was going to do that. So that would just made a different situation. And then and I don't recall, maybe some other stories ended up on the islands as well.
Oh, nobody's read all the stories except for me. So no, you're on an island.
I'm on an island,
You got these
and I've got 4 people because the islands have been largely abandoned, just as the planet itself is being abandoned now. And these 4 people are a husband and wife and a brother and sister, and they've been alone, just the 4 of them on this island for quite some time. And I kind of twisted this. I want to say this isn't my normal way of taking things, but I kind of twisted this into where the brother and sister become involved with the wife and the husband, but everybody's sort of okay with it for a while. But that doesn't end up and it does not end up well, and so bad things start to happen as a result of that. To preserve some of the mystery of the story, I'll stop there, I guess. But that's the gist of it.
But yours is a study of people.
Yes.
And that's what makes it cool, because Scott's planet is full of people. This is the story of the people that stayed. We try and limit the overarching, oh my God, that somebody, none of the stories here, except for possibly one, and since he was my co-editor, I couldn't say no. Actually, I could, but I didn't. Is more overarching. Now, that moves us to Emily. Now,
Is it me?
okay.
Did that have the sound back?
It did.
Okay, the sound
It did,
is
so it's me. All right.
okay. Well, it's okay, Emily. You have got one of the. I won't. Don't be insulted, rest of people. But kind of an interesting story that it grew on me as the telling went, and you have 2 of the most interesting characters. Do you remember their names? California.
I know
Vermont.
one is California and Vermont.
Yes.
And I named them that because I know a lot of little girls named Brooklyn. And I figured if you're very like, one of the immigrant experiences for me is even moving across countries, people tend to name their kids after places they've left. So I figured, like, what would those names be? Well, California and Nevada are just pretty names, right?
Vermont.
Oh, sorry, Nevada. I think she was Nevada for a bit, but I think I changed her to Vermont.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an homage to David Gerald now, who is setting lakeside in Vermont right now. God, that lucky bastard. But anyway, and so you, what made you? I don't want to ask where it came from, because that's a story. That's every writer that gets to answer that question will get to go into a 30-minute diatribe on that.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting, and you bring to light some of the village aspects of it. Because think about it. They've been on the planet for 10 years. They've developed community. And all of a sudden, about half the people are being stricken by the rapture of I ain't staying here. Uh, and so you tell us more. What are some of the interesting creatures that you find in the world here on this world that you like to use?
So I brought in. So when I hear big bugs, I think of megapedes, which are like some of the biggest bugs ever to exist on Earth, which are enormous 12-foot long centipedes, basically. Um, and I was like, what do centipedes eat? They're mostly like ground dwellers, but they also eat wool. We've got a lot of sheep on the planet. And then the other thing I was thinking about was I'm also a bookbinder occasionally, and with very few trees on the planet, you don't have any gum arabic, which is an essential ingredient in ink. And so if you're a librarian or somebody thinking about preserving information on the planet, you're like, where are we going to make our ink from? Because I mean, it becomes a practical question. Like, where do you get the binders for your ink? Because you can't use a printing press without sticky ink, and there's very, very few ways to make the ink sticky that is not basically a bio long chain polymer, basically. Then those are mostly organic. So especially if you don't have any oil on the planet, you're kind of so one of the only other places to get that is from bugs, and you've got really big bugs on the planet. That's gonna hard getting that is gonna lead to some interesting situations.
It's okay, and they taste like lobster.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Oh yeah, like the little roly polies. Any of you world travelers eating roly polies?
I can't say I have, Bob. No.
Can't say I have, Bob.
Oh, you haven't lived until you have. But now the okay, private chat is just okay. I just the private chat is killing me.
I put that last one in the public chat too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now there's something else about the planet that is interesting, and that is there are the planet has got higher density of air and a higher oxygen content, very much like the early Carboniferous period of Earth. And so, what we told people in our Bible was, if you're trying to develop life or things, go back and read about the early Carboniferous period on Earth, and let that be your guide. And some of you were involved in it, but we have got possibly the most extensive Bible I've ever put together for any anthology. And because I plan on there being more Scott's Planet stories. So
Bob will make Scott's Planet great again.
yeah, Scott's Planet's fun. And so Gordon,
Yeah.
right? Gordon's character does actually shows up in two stories. He just doesn't know it yet. Yeah. You're but tell us about your story, Gordon. Oh, you might need to turn your sound back on. You there, Gordon?
I think you froze.
Looks like he might have froze up. His image is not moving.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Corporate interference by the departing colonists, I think.
Well, Gordon,
Cyber
we
attack.
will come back to you, And right now we will go to our gamer, Andrew.
Hello. I
You've
think
been
Cliff.
very quiet.
I think Cliff is also a gamer too.
Cliff?
For my sins.
Yeah, I've heard that, but
I hope you can hear me.
now I tell you when you come back, Scott. Gordon. We'll talk about that. But Andrew, tell us about your story and your favorite bug.
My
Or
favorite bug. I didn't put too many bugs. No, I didn't put any bugs in the story. Favorite bug? I'd have to say it's like a scorpion, although technically it's an arachnid. But yeah, my story had no bugs in it, but it did have a fair amount of action.
So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, basically, the story revolves around a a veterinarian with a secret, and it's kind of like a dark secret that comes out in the course of the story, and something that she's hiding from the colonists. That's, if she's featured in other stories, it's going to come back to haunt her. So it's basically, it's colonists that are struggling, and they're taking the law into their own hands, and she has to step in.
I like it.
Yeah, it was a fun story.
I thought it was pretty good. I used that. Everybody who does anthologies, or not everybody does it different. I tend to do stories. I find the story that's perfect close for the book, and then I find the story that's the best, strongest opening, and then I put an anchor story in the center so that if somebody's starting to say, "Oh, why am I reading this book?" Oh, yeah, this is why I'm reading this book.
Yeah.
Sunset is my center anchor.
Oh, nice.
Now, speaking of your favorite bug, Gordon. I saw him moving. I know he was alive. Gordon, I seem to have lost Gordon again. Something about calling his name.
I think you have to say his name 3 times before he appears.
Yeah, you poke him. Well, he's oh, good. You're all. Well, Gordon wrote us an interesting story. Sucking his brains out. That's what happened. Oh, he moved again. Well, Gordon, are you there?
I'm here now. I hope I stay here long enough. What was the question?
Oh, you haven't been watching the screen to see everybody's trying to poke you.
Poking.
I'm trying to, but my screen's been frozen. It's a new computer and it's acting up. I think the aliens did this.
Well, while you're still with us, tell us about your story and what your favorite bug in your story is.
Well, basically it was like a little side thing.
Oh, I got good news and bad news for you, Gordon. I loved your story. I've even got it in the book. But nobody here is getting to hear anything. It's a bug in Gordon's new system. But not everybody on Scott's planet.
Few people.
Sometimes when you go out there and you want to live the frontier life, you go live in the woods in a cave all by yourself. And Gordon's written this character about a guy that goes and lives in a cave kind of all by himself, except he's not by himself. Are you back, Gordon?
No. He's got a pet dragonfly, yeah.
Oh,
and there's this woman going around interviewing the few people that are left on the planet doing the same kind of thing. And, so he interacts with her. He says, no, I'm going to stay here with my pet dragonfly. I like it better.
Yeah. Now, I was challenged by somebody having a pet dragonfly. Of course, these dragonflies are big. It was a toss-up for the cover because I have a great dragonfly image that I was going to use for the cover, but somebody talked me out of it. But yeah. So
Yeah.
I want to divert for a second, though. I've got 3 of you guys that are here. That would be Lance, Emily, and Gordon. We're back to Gordon. Gordon, the unresponsive.
I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah. To point out, Jim Wright's had some great. But Lance, were you the editor of this anthology that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about this other anthology that you guys have that has been doing so well.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. So I actually dropped the link in the private chat. I don't know if there's a way to share that. No, thanks. Yeah. So this is Of Gods and Globes 3. Here we go. I've actually done, I did the first 2 by myself. Emily helped me with the third one because it got pretty, it got chonky. Like, how many pages? Like about 500 pages of short stories. So Gordon's in it. Emily's got a story in it too. I insisted she contribute, but Juliette Marillier is in it from Australia and lots of other folks. So it was top 3 anthologies in the world just the other day. I mean, Asimov was beating us out, and I'm okay letting him win. So, but it's basically kind of the tidal influence of stellar phenomenon that are named after old gods and myths, or on the fantasy side, kind of reimagining those myths. And so you have horror stories, you have sci-fi stories, you have fantasy stories, a lot of people doing really, really interesting stuff. And it's not just, Jupiter and Zeus and the standard stuff. I mean, we get weird myths from cultures we don't have. We have kind of a really interesting story from the Hindu pantheon. One of them focused on the pebble in the Titan's belly, which is, there are pebbles in space. So that was
absolutely one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's pretty clever. Gordon's focused on an up and coming musician in Brooklyn, which had a tender spot in my heart. But there's stories in there that'll make you laugh, some that'll make you cry, some that'll probably keep you up at night.
Sounds like something we should have published. But I tell you what, it is good to have that out there, because the world is, there's one thing you learn as a small press editor: you're not in competition.
That's right.
You are out there. We are collectively building a readership for small press anthologies, that
Right.
The people who read yours, read mine, read yours, read ours. And I am so thrilled. And I will tell you this, because I know, Gordon, you occasionally delve into editing.
I did a magazine for like 40 years. Yeah.
I've heard that. I've heard that, But no, any of you guys that you got promotions to do, call me, email me. We are always wanting to help build the genre, build the concept of small press and anthologies, because that's the good thing about it all. So,
and those are 99 cents right now, for the record. So they're super cheap right now.
That's a good one, because I tried to post it, and it for some reason it rejected me. But
What?
it does that. It does sometimes.
That's right.
It's in the Facebook comments, successfully posted, the link.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I did put it in the
Thanks.
comments there, but I will just say, do it. Now, those of you guys, some of you guys have seen the other stories. if I was to try and say to a reader, you should read Scott's Planet because. Now, I would say that one of the things is that you've got more bald people writing stories, and we know that bald people are the best writers. Those long hair hippie types are second. Yeah.
Giant space bugs, Bob. You're selling on the giant space bugs.
So many giant bugs.
Yes.
Stories and big bugs.
Who doesn't like giant space bugs?
It is amazing of all the bugs that we have on this planet. You know, the planet's primary wildlife is lizards, little small lizards. And chickens imported from Earth that grew to waist size height and live on the lizards.
Bugs and lizards and chickens. Oh my!
The lizards taste like chicken.
Well, I don't know how they taste because the chickens eat them, but it
And the
does.
chickens taste like lizards.
Yeah. Who here ever raises chickens?
I've helped. Yeah.
Well, then your egg yolks, are very much a function of what the chicken eats.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got your chicken eating broccoli every day, you're going to get a real rich yellow, dark yolk. And basic chicken food will give you a very pale yellow yolk. And the bugs and everything they eat varies. But I tell you, I like the giant chickens. Is one of my favorite things because anybody here ever been attacked by a rooster?
Yeah, that's not great. That's not
Yeah.
good.
Roosters. Why do you think Marines have the little red stripe on the side of their uniform? If you look at a lot of roosters, you'll see little red stripes going down the outside of their leg. Rooster used to be a term used for a crusty, tough little guy, roosters are mean. Now imagine one that's 4 foot tall and go look up terror birds on the internet. Birds
That's basically a velociraptor there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So what we have there, and we have everything else. Like now, Lance brought this in. He used the catfish because we imported a lot of animals from Earth. And for some reason, catfish just took to this planet like a duck to water. Ducks didn't survive, though.
They got eaten by the catfish.
You mean they didn't duck?
Nah, we brought in pugs, though. One poor woman, bless her heart, she didn't want to use a pug. Her favorite dog was a corgi. And so she wanted me to change my Bible to let her use corgis.
Was this the Queen of England? How long did
I
you start
don't
of
know.
submission?
But I think pugs are the best dogs. Yeah, the ducks weren't giant sized. Oh, yeah. The chickens got them. That's it.
I got stories about ducklings and koi that would curl your hair. So
your koi was eating your ducklings?
Koi are carnivorous when you give them the chance.
Oh yeah, and some of them get to be almost as big as a catfish.
They're related. So I would say if you got a catfish of decent size, like no more ducks.
I like it. Now, because we're talking about a fairly short anthology here, because when you really boil it down, we're at about 50,000 words, and so we've got room to grow. Now,
Bob, it's been a while since I've actually looked at the stories, but from what I remember of when I was reading some of the others, the thing that really impressed me about it is, given how short the anthology is, there's a wide variety of characters in it. It's an amazing cross section of an entire society that you've got crammed into that little book there.
Oh, it is. For example, Emily uses Zach. Zach is an entomologist who winds up being so enamored of all the different bug species he finds that he stays on the planet. And then he needs something to do for a living. And so he's working at the book bindery for Emily as one of Emily's characters.
Yeah, he ends up working for the library, basically, the librarians, as a acquisitions expert.
Yeah, I mean, and I love it. We have tinkerers, traveling tinkerers on the planet that go around and help keep things working. Space librarians, Cliff, you're just incorrigible. You guys on the public comments can't always see everything that.
I added that to the public one too, but I think that's a new, anthology. Scott's Planet 2, Space Librarians.
Well, I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be a background project for probably the rest of my career. And
I mean, like that could be the people could hear about the library. They could send transmissions out at light speed, and then the reason humanity returns to Scott's planet to find the lost colony is the library.
Well, one of the things that
best entomology section in the galaxy.
The entomologist rule. Yeah. Well, but what do the entomologists do down at the library when they find out the local wildlife is eating their book binding?
I was gonna say, Bob, I got way more stories about bugs and books. So,
well,
there's cockroaches that'll eat book binding, Luke.
I'm going to tell you guys, I've been looking at and decided a long time ago I was going to do something. I call it the mini antho, where I take one really kick-ass story and two shorter ones that complement it topical wise and just put them out as their own anthology. All I've got to do is get enough words to make it possible to bind a book. And I see that as something that I'm looking forward to more Scott's Planet, because you have no idea. I mean, how many of you guys don't sit down sometimes and just spit out a little story that you've got no place for?
Yep. Well, I actually have a sequel to the catfish story. So
yeah.
I got another Nevada and Vermont and California story brewing too. So.
It sounds like somebody came in. Oh, that was Gordon going out and coming back in.
I got my phone. Okay, can we just mute this?
Okay. Well, that's a different Gordon. We have two Gordons.
Two Gordons, no waiting.
Oh, hey, but it does even it up, and now we're the perfect Hollywood squares. Okay. So, I'm going to
ask us trivia questions.
Yeah, I'm going to take Cliff Winnig. Cliff, if you had actually had to put an animal in any of your story, in your poem, and write it as a story, what would you have written about?
Oh my goodness, on this planet, presumably. I gotta say, rooster versus giant space bug. Giant space rooster versus giant space bug. The mini giant kaiju fight of the millennium.
I'm putting my money on the rooster.
Yep.
Okay.
I got the megapede.
Yeah, megapede versus a rooster, like a 4-foot rooster. Going at it. I'm thinking like people are betting on it like a cockfight.
Oh, you've ruined my world. I
yeah.
love it though. I mean, I can see this happening. The pit fights between megapedes and roosters. God.
Now one of us has to write that story. There's a moral imperative here.
Andrew, say something. Get us away
Maybe I'll
from
do it.
this hellish cesspool of gravity. Help us, Andrew.
Gordon, maybe we're getting some feedback here.
I'm all for writing that story.
Dale, is that you?
Not me. That was Andrew, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew.
Yeah, that was Andrew J.
Yeah, your B list, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, the
Prose Andrew.
There you
Poet
go.
Andrew. We'll call him that. Okay, we got Poet Andrew and Gamer Andrew.
That's it.
I was talking to Gamer Andrew because gamers have to think on their feet. Poets can take 2 weeks to write a sentence.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe there will get some feedback.
Well, you don't know me. You don't know how fast I can write a poem, Bob.
Yeah, dude, you should see what he comes up with on his lunch hour, man.
Oh,
He's got pages
gosh.
and pages.
There was a megapede from Nantucket. Okay. You guys put together, you guys are all great writers. You,
Is that the crickets from Scott's Planet?
that's crickets, yeah.
It's
That's
the relativistic lag.
But we
So, Bob,
thank you.
Bob, tell us about Scott.
Who?
Who is Scott?
Yeah, I have questions.
Okay, Scott's Planet is just named after the original guy that discovered Scott's Planet. But the planet, the system worked where they would go in. Let me tell you about a story that none of you have really read. When the Scott's Planet, when they come out and decide that they're canceling colonies, ask yourself this: were there any outbound ships with colonists on board? Of course there were. So I took this one group of people, Samoans, that were outbound to a colony world because their world was essentially just being screwed up by the only fishing they were able to do was for the catching tuna to send to Japan and United States for canneries. And so they're outbound. And on the way out, they find out their colony's been canceled, and the Samoans who are seeking a simpler life find out they're being redirected to a mining colony. So this is the story of about how through hook, crook, and thought and everything, they wind up as the newest set of colonists on Scott's Planet. And so that gives you a little bit of cultural diversity because Scott's Planet is, they were fairly much homogeneous when they settled into planets. Now, there is no such thing as a homogeneous Western culture. Okay, we lost Gordon. So yeah, we got a fair amount, but this gives us the opportunity. Am I to think that we might have that fan again? I don't know. Okay, let's ask a question, and I'll ask this to the people watching. A fan? Is that noise a fan or garbage disposal or what? What do you think it is, Poet Andrew?
I'm thinking it's a blender that's blending catfish from Scott's Planet.
What about you, Lance?
I'm disturbed that you guys keep coming back to slurried catfish. I've never heard of this thing.
Okay,
I don't know what kind of smoothie shop
Scott
you're going
Smoothie.
to.
well, what we're doing, you see, I'm from Texas where yellow cats, it is not uncommon to see a short Texan catch a yellow cat that's as long as they are and just as wide. Um, so, what do you think there, Dale? What's the noise in the background?
Well, I think they're actually fueling the ship prior to departure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to vote. I think somebody's fan on their computer is going bad, and a bunch of bees flew in there, built a nest.
It's
And when you
me.
turned it on after not being on for 6 months, then boom, the bees are all flying in the fan, and that's what we're hearing.
I'm pretty sure it's the sound of the machinery after the giant millipede rooster cockfight. Then the survivor has to face one of the colonists in a kind of bug juice powered exoskeleton fighting mecha suit that they made for the occasion. You know,
Cliff,
and,
I think
like Ripley versus the Alien Queen there. So that's going to be
a bug juice powered exoskeleton is just called a bug.
well, not if there's a person inside it.
You guys are talking me out
I
of
think you
the
may have just
sequel
about killed
very
Bob with
quickly.
that one.
You know that, right?
Probably the person's stage name is Bugman, right? They just call him Bug for short.
Or Bugsy.
Bugsy, yeah.
Bugsy, nice.
Bugs.
I like it.
Maybe it's a rabbit.
I'm pretty sure it's one of those windmills that causes cancer.
I'm just waiting for somebody to figure out a way to build pug armor out of millipede scales.
That would be Pugsy.
Yeah.
That would be Bugsy.
Well, or everybody could die except for the librarian, and I think Paula Hammond for the librarian. Oh, you need to read. I need to send this to you, Emily.
Me and Paula need to talk.
Well, what it is we have Paula Hammond, a wonderful writer that she's been with us since the beginning, wrote us a story about an android that was sent down to be part of the teaching staff at the colony. And she got in a hobby of collecting books because she loved books. And they then said all androids remain property of the Union. And so she had to make a decision whether to upload herself into the mainframe and give up her books, that's one of our stories. But if I send it to you, you may very well find, Emily, that fits very well with where you're going, because that's the last edit that's going to take place when we send it out for proofing. Everybody's going to read all of the other stories, and I expect a short burst of creativity where people want to modify or tweak their story to integrate some element of another story that's in the book, because it is a shared world. And the contracts, you haven't seen the contracts, but the contracts are written to promote that. It's kind of like, who here's ever read Thieves' World? Yeah.
I want to see bug juice powered exoskeletons in every one story.
Yeah, it's there is even a tavern here. But so you guys excited about this?
Very much.
Yeah, I think it's great.
It's been going on for you guys are the most patient writers I've ever known. We've been working on this anthology for literally over 2 years.
I dig it.
You can't rush genius, Bob.
Do what? You can't rush genius?
Right. You cannot rush
I know, but...
Or this anthology, either one.
Well, you're not the guy that every 3 months gets the email from one or two of the writers saying, "Are you still doing this?" Uh, yes, we're still doing it, and we're enjoying it a lot. But I have to say this: now that we're coming up on the end of the stream, this Scott's Planet is not our next anthology hitting the streets. It's the one after that. The next anthology hitting the streets is got, oddly enough, Cliff and Andrew. You are in Southern Truths, right?
Nope. Nope.
No. Oh, I
I'm in
missed you.
Northerner.
Oh, it's Lance. Southern Truths coming out here. Literally, I'm supposed to get the proofed copy back today to send out to all of you folks. And
Excellent.
so,
I look forward to being in 2 books with Lance.
well, hey,
We did
someday
it, Cliff.
you're going to look back on that and say, "Wow."
Yes, I will.
Yeah. Said,
I'll be super excited to be in an anthology with Cliff.
well, I like to think that I'm going to be the guy that put Isaac Asimov and Robert Heinlein in an anthology in 1939. You know?
That's you're just like that, Bob. That's
Yeah.
totally it.
That's called time travel, Bob.
Oh, man. You realize what an evil science fiction editor could do with time travel?
Yes. Yes, I do.
There's actually a science fiction story
Yes,
about
please
that.
don't.
But anyway.
Hey, that is a science fiction story. I've always wanted to do a time travel. And if I had more time in the world, the story I'd be doing right now? I'd be doing an alternative history that said, here's the alternative history scenario. First, 1775 to 1825. Alternative histories. And tell us this. Write me a split screen story of then and now. And
You got to invite Harry Turtledove for that one.
Yeah.
well, I could invite Harry Turtledove, and if I thought I had the stories and could get them out by in the next 7 months, which I really could if I wasn't so lazy, we could. But just imagine that would be some fun stories. And we could have it released as Kamala Harris is getting ready to do her big parade in Washington, D.C., where we have pride flags next to old suffragette flags, next to white dudes for Harris flags, against Black Lives Matter flags, all of them lined up saying, these are the people that brought us forward. And then there's flags flying, bicentennial, or what do you call that when a quarter century or a quarter millennium?
Quarter millennium.
Yeah, you see, bicentennial was 200 years old. So what do you call that? Oh, I know. We'll call it Quinn V celebration. 50 or yeah. No, V was, what was the signal? What was a $50 bill? 50, the Roman numeral for 50, guys. Come on. You're all smart.
It looks like semi-quincentennial or sesquicentennial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quarter
What are they going to
millennial.
call it? But anyway, it would be great to, while you're sitting there watching that parade, to hear the doorbell ring and it's your Amazon delivery. And there's your book you're in with a red, white, and blue cover over 250 years of America as it could have been, as it is. But it's going to be interesting. There is one thing I'm dreading about the 250 years coming up. Having graduated high school in 1976, bicentennial class, there were a whole bunch of people.
We're the
that
same
felt
class.
It was their job. Oh, L. Yeah, we'll call it the Quinn L.
That's like a car.
Yeah. Well, we write it well. We can call it eloquent.
There you go.
You have to have a story set on the Chicago L.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the one.
And we can talk about the elephant in the room.
Oh, yeah.
The elephant in an elevator going to the L.
Oh, yeah. It can go so far. But the people who are going to take it upon themselves to remind us of the flaws of our founding fathers ad nauseum. Our founding fathers were flawed individuals. And I love them all, even though they're OCCL. But that's going to be one of the tough ones. Is like, okay, guys, most of us know this stuff. It's not new. They owned slaves. They were misogynists, many of them. But let's find a story that's you really want to tell. I know one woman, Susan McDonald, wrote a great story for us one time about Abigail Adams, who wrote a letter to her husband reminding the Continental Congress to remember the ladies and how important they were in America. And I would love to be able to publish that story in a volume like that because she had Abigail Adams as the 4th president of the United States. And it worked. She did a great job at it.
He's good.
So anyway, but that's a fantasy anthology. But you guys are in a real one. And right after Scott's Planet, right after this Southern Truths, we got Scott's Planet hitting it. And then we have Karen Anderson and Deborah Godfrey, who are going to be releasing a BQ Press anthology that I have not, my name is not on the cover. And that's only happened, this will be the 3rd time that's happened.
That's because the publisher fired you, Bob.
Yeah, I know, he did. He said, Bob, you got too much stuff. So, but that's what we got coming out. And then we're going to put out the open call for the Retribution and Revenge. It is going to be the story of what happens if Trump wins the election, or what happened because Trump winning the election. And if we write it because of what happened because Trump won the election, we'll all write as John Smith or Jones Smith. Because trust me, you be in that book, he'll be coming for you.
I think we should all write as Jane Doe.
James Adams?
No, Jane Doe. Or Jane Roe. Jane Roe. That's
that would
Jane
work.
Roe.
We when we did Post Roe, we did a very good anthology with a fantastic story by Adam Troy Castro and a bunch of other very talented writers called Post Roe Alternatives. And because we didn't want anybody focusing on the sex of the writer, saying, you're a man, how can you write about abortion rights? Or you're a woman, how can you take that position on abortion rights? We used first initials. Everybody in there was their initials. And David, some fairly good-sized writers gave their name up for the privilege of being in the book on an important topic without having to be called by their name. I was so proud of those guys. But that's another story. You guys did a good book. You wrote some great stories. And oddly enough, the two of you that are here are two people whose stories I'm still polishing. And there's some adequate poems. BQ Press always
I'm adequate.
Hey, you're the shortest work in the book. Yeah. No, they're excellent poems. And
We're getting paid by the word, and I'm the shortest work in the book.
Well, actually, I have a thing. How he rages How he now rages and rages each day and each night, tweeting and shouting the small and shallow man whose vain substance, misspelled vain, is nothing more than expensive suits stuffed with other people's money and his debts to those who would own him. Okay, who wrote that? Andrew. Robert.
Someone who misspelled vain.
Yeah, very good. Is that already published?
Oh, I should be talking. Why am I typing? No, I wrote that immediately after last week's podcast, and that's only part of it. You want to hear all of it?
Oh, I liked it. Oh yeah, I forgot it's you.
Yeah.
The other 17 pages, I'm sure, are
Yeah,
just.
it's only 1.5 pages. How he rages now, rages and rages each day and each night, tweeting and shouting. This small, shallow man whose vain misspelled substance is nothing more than an expensive suit stuffed with other people's money, and his debts to those who would own him. A scarecrow surrounded by foxes, having only the meanest of hearts, impossible to see, impossible to weigh or measure. He is the raging father of infinite lies, big lies, massive lies, the biggest lies ever, spewed by a gold-plated, fork-tongued, wingless carrion eater, strutting in imitation eagle's feathers, cawing, always cawing, raging and raging against the dawning of the light. One bitter old man of no humanity, a criminal who should be put away in some cage on display for his crimes against our nation, our people, the truth, and the very dawning of the light. He does not hesitate to proclaim the names of those he hates. He hates everyone except himself, even those who love him, follow him, sharing his fury and his hate, blinded and ignoring the dawning of the light. But some are not deceived. Some among our young have with open eyes and open hearts. They see, they analyze, and do not share his rage or believe his lies. And so with newborn wisdom they resist and stand not so much against him as they do together for the dawning of the light. So I wrote that in like 5 minutes right after last week's podcast.
Well, very good.
And now we're all going to get arrested and rounded up.
You realize
becomes president.
That'll be our first acceptance for retribution.
You're welcome to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to post that. I was literally about to post that when the news came on that they caught the attempted shooter at the golf course. I thought probably shouldn't post this on Facebook. Right
Oh, it's okay. I prowl Facebook occasionally and send notes to people who have a really great post. And that's how I met Jim Wright.
Hmm.
And I said, "Can I buy that?" And he asked me if the check would bounce. And I said no. And he said yes. So that it's amazing. Gordon knows this. Lance, you know this. The best way to get and keep good writers is to pay them.
Yep.
If you do that. Now, Emily, are you an editor with him in that?
I helped him sift through the like small mountain of submissions we ended up with. So I did some slush reading and some sifting with him on that, and then I helped edit down some of the stories.
Well, he's holding it up. So I just got to say thank you guys both for adding to the small press library opportunities that exist out there. Small press is going to be the salvation of publishing. And so that said, I've got this fella on here named Cliff Winnig that also does second Sunday. No, he does third Sundays.
Only this month I did second, third, and fourth Sundays because
sometimes he's like, well, Cliff is in several of the books we're promoting, and he's just downright fun to have on. So, Cliff, you wrote us something, And I just want to say, before we do this, we're going to close with Cliff reading his poem. Is there anybody else here that has something that they want to close with, that they've got to want to add? Make sure somebody knows about an upcoming appearance, a book they're working on, etc.
Well, I could show you my latest book if you wanted.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay. I missed something, I think. So, Cliff, are you there? Read to us, Cliff.
Yeah, I will say that I've got a reprint story in 2 Hour Transport 2 that just came out from Fairwood Press. One of my favorite stories, called The Call of the Sky. So that's my plug. Another great small press, Fairwood Press, published by Patrick Swinsett and Company. Anyway, okay.
Patrick, I gotta say, Patrick is my role model. When I grow up, I want to be Patrick. So
He's fantastic. So, unbeknownst to Bob, in the last 5 minutes, inspired by Andrew, I've added 12 pages to this poem. So sit down. We're gonna. No. I recount the entire history of Scott's Planet in the poem. Okay. No, it's short. Here we go. The last ship. When the last ship went up, the smoke billowed out, a sudden cloud, and the heat of it rolled over. Those of us who'd come to watch, but not to board. As the ship receded into the empty sky, the sun set and stars winked on one by one. For the first time, just lights in the night sky, silent and alone, impossibly remote.
Very nice.
Thank you. Very powerful piece of work there.
Thank you, Bob.
I thank you guys all. And so, based on our schedule, we should have this out by 2027. But hi,
sometime
Gordon.
Before we actually invent faster than light travel, that should be.
Hey, don't laugh. I've got that on my list of things to do. But you guys were all. Every one of you has been a pleasure. Oh yeah. I gotta say, I think that Scott's Planet is going to develop a following, so that the stories and characters that we've built in this set of books, that people will be talking about Vermont and California not as states, but as the Sisters Grimm, it well into the future. I just there's a lot of characters that really struck me, but those were good, and thank you. And also my just the guy out there noodling for catfish in his ecclesiastical robes is going to stick with me too, Lance. So thank you all.